Hey guys, so I definitely should have uploaded this video a lot sooner. We're already like halfway through January, but I was mainly just kind of lazy. But now I do have my end of the year list that I tend to do. This is always some of the most fun I have on the channel. I guess I haven't been uploading as much lately as I've been wanting to. But I did see a ton of movies this year, so I wanted to be sure that I got my list out for you guys. And I guess technically one movie I saw at like this year, but it was a 2016 release, made it onto the list. So I guess it kind of was worth it. But for the most part, my list was basically the same. So I ended up with 28 movies that I really dug. I'm going to have 8 honorable mentions, then do a top 20. So I'm just going to list off my 8 honorable mentions right now. Don't Think Twice, Sully, Kubo and the Two Strings, Cafe Society, Lights Out, Swiss Army Man, very bizarre film, but definitely have to check that out, Finding Dory, and Pop Star Never Stop Never Stopping was my 21st favorite movie of the year. I saw that twice in theaters, actually. It's a really fun movie. I highly recommend you all go watch it. Now it's time for my top 20 movies of the year. Coming in at number 20 is The Edge of 17, starring Haley Steinfeld and Woody Harrelson. This was a very funny movie. I found it very relatable as I graduated high school like 2 years ago, so I kind of felt a lot of the similar things that Haley Steinfeld did. But it was also really cool seeing a coming-of-age story from a female perspective. I know Diary of a Teenage Girl came out a few years ago, which I really liked, but I think this was even better done. It's also more conventional. Diary of a Teenage Girl was really creepy for me at parts, while this was not nearly as creepy. It was just like, oh, it's a really funny, witty comedy. Haley Steinfeld's great, Woody Harrelson's great. I saw this twice in theaters, actually. I thought it was a lot of fun. And I always have like a coming-of-age movie on these lists. And this one wasn't good enough to make my top 10, but it was like very, very good. And I love the movie. I'm going to buy it on Blu-ray. I think it's great. Number 19 is The Jungle Book. This is a Jon Favreau Disney film. Because of the hype from D23, I had pretty high expectations, and people kept saying how good the movie was around Tomatoes and stuff. So I was like, this movie's gonna be really good. So on opening day, I loved it. I was floored by it. It's not higher up just because I haven't rewatched it since. I haven't really felt the need to. But I remember I walked out of that theater on like cloud 9. I was like, I can't believe they made a Jungle Book movie that good. And the Warner Brothers one, the Jungle Book Origins, I'll see it if it gets made, but I honestly don't really care about it at this point, because Jon Favreau did such a good job, and I'm excited to see what he does with The Lion King next. My number 18 movie of the year was a small film called Krishna, directed by Trey Edward Schultz. I think he also wrote it, and he also has a small starring role. This film blew me away. I remember I watched it because Sasha Pro Raver raved about it. I was like, oh, okay, it was at my local indie theater here in my college town. I went and saw it, and I was blown away by it. I think it's fantastic. I think it is probably the most underrated movie of the year because I hardly even hear people talk about it. I've seen it on a few like IndieWire top 10 lists of the year, but for the most part, I'm like, oh, have you seen Krishna? And people who are like in the cinema studies program at my college are like, I've never heard of that. And I'm like, Krishna is phenomenal. You should see it. Now, number 17 on this list will probably be controversial because a lot of people hate this movie. I really dig it personally. I think it's really interesting. There's a lot of great action in the movie, and I think a lot of the thematic stuff actually works for me. I understand if it doesn't work for you, but that is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate Edition. I liked the theatrical edition when I saw it, as you can see by me fanboying in my review earlier this year. Because I saw it at like a fan screening, and I was over the moon. And I saw it a few days later, and I still really like it. And I saw it 3 times that week, and I watched it one more time, like the Ultimate Edition, which I think is much better. It's actually like there's establishing shots, and it's well edited. Yeah, I'm still like taken aback by how much hate this movie got. I understand it kinda, because now I've like watched a lot of videos about why people don't like it, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But when I watch the movie, I'm swept away into this new DC cinematic universe. I love Man of Steel. I think this is worse than Man of Steel, but I still like really dig this movie, and I bought the Ultimate Edition. I'm gonna watch it years to come. I think it's a really fun movie. Number 16 is a film from Amazon Studios, or at least they distributed the film. It's called Manchester by the Sea, and if Casey Affleck does not win Best Actor, I don't know what I'll do, because I don't have to worry about it, because he's gonna win Best Actor. He was phenomenal in the film. This is one of the most heart-wrenching movies that I saw all year. It's very somber. It's slow-paced. There's no like big climactic scene or anything. It's just like, oh, there's a resolution kind of, and then the movie's done. But I think it works to great effect. There are scenes in this movie that you will, if you're not crying, I don't think you're like have an emotional capacity. It's that heart-wrenching. It's gonna be nominated for Best Picture. It's a movie that I wish I could have up higher, but if I had a choice between watching this movie and other movies, I'd be like, I'd rather watch those other movies. So that's why it's not that as high. But it's still like well worth seeing, and if it were to win Best Picture, I wouldn't really complain. Now at number 15 is one of Disney Animation's movies this year, Moana. It's not as good as Frozen, which was in my top 10 in 2013. I think it's better than Tangled. I think Moana is really good. The soundtrack's great. I've been blasting the soundtrack for a solid month after I watched it, up until I saw another movie that's on this list later on. If you can do release date math, you might be able to figure out what that movie was. The Rock performances in the movie are great. Lin-Manuel Miranda's music is great. The animation is absolutely beautiful. Funny story, when I first watched this movie, I fell asleep multiple times because I got like 2 hours of sleep the previous night. But whenever I was awake, I was like, this movie is incredible. So I got like good sleep for 2 days, so I could go back and rewatch Moana and be awake during everything, and I was like, this movie's fantastic. It's a great movie, so good. I still listen to the soundtrack like at least once a week. You're Welcome's probably my favorite. It's either How Far Out Go, but How Far Out Go doesn't have that like single track all the way through because it's broken up into different pieces, which is kind of my only complaint about that song, but it definitely works in the context of the movie. It just makes it annoying for sing-along sessions. Now at number 14 is Captain America Civil War. This was my favorite comic book movie of the year. Spoiler alert, nothing else from the comic book genre will be on this list. This is the highest it got. I saw this movie 4 times in theaters, I believe, because a lot of friends wanted to see it. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go with you guys. That airport sequence is fantastic. It's probably the best on-screen Spider-Man since the Sam Raimi version, and I think this one might be even more fun. I'm super excited for Spider-Man Homecoming, so we'll see how that works next year. I also, not just the airport sequence, but there's like full-on, almost every action sequence in this movie is some of the best action I've ever seen. This is one of my favorite action movies, I think. It's kind of long, but it's still really good, and I don't think it has pacing issues, because I was never bored whenever I watched this movie. I'm always blown away by like how well directed the action is. I guess the color palette is like grainy. It's just your typical Marvel color palette. It works for me, but I understand when people think it's kind of just too dry for them. Also, I think like the final battle in the last few minutes, I like how it wasn't this huge extravaganza. It was a smaller, more intimate moment. I think it worked really well. And if we hadn't seen it in the trailers, it would have been a lot more effective. Also, side note, the Team Thor like skit that Taika Waititi directed is absolutely hilarious. Like, I highly recommend watching that little short if you haven't watched it already. Number 13 on my list is 10 Cloverfield Lane, directed by Dan Trachtenberg. I will see whatever this man does because this was such a smart thriller. And I know the endings, either you love it or you hate it. I was like lukewarm when I first watched it. I loved it the second time I watched the movie. And a few movies this year had me on the edge of my seat as much as 10 Cloverfield Lane did. I think if it didn't have the last 10 minutes, I would like it more, but I'm not mad it has the last 10 minutes because it does have to fit into the Cloverfield universe. And I think part of that is super interesting how it connects to the first Cloverfield film. It's all like very subtle things, but if you catch it, you're like, oh, that's really cool, and you're really into it. Mary Elizabeth Winstead and John Goldman are both great. There's also that third guy who I forget who he is, but he was good in the movie. I think John Goodman should be getting an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor, but because the movie came out in March, he's not going to. It's a great film. The sound design also is really good. I saw it in IMAX the second time, and the sound design was well worth the money, I thought, when I saw it the second time in that format. My number 12 film of the year is Hell or High Water. This is from the writer of Sicario as well, and I know this guy has a film he's directed coming to Sundance this year, which I can't wait to watch. I'm not going to go to Sundance, sadly. I want to one day. But I'll see whatever this guy writes, because this guy is one hell of a writer. I don't even know what it is about this movie when I first watched it, but it just exuded quality once it started. Ben Foster should get an Oscar nomination, I think. Chris Pine was great. Jeff Bridges is great. The dynamic between Pine and Foster is very gripping. There's really only like 2 action scenes in the movie, but the entire time you can feel the tension, you're invested in the characters. This is probably my favorite Western I've ever seen, to be completely honest. Like, most Westerns I'm like not a big fan of. I'm like, yeah, they're whatever, I guess. This film I was gripped the entire time by, and it's one I'll be showing lots of my friends for years to come. I'm like, yeah, you haven't seen Hell or High Water? We have to see that movie. I'm gonna say that a lot on this list because like that's how I feel about how good these movies are. And the last film for the first half of my top 20 will be at number 11, and that is Don't Breathe. This was my number 10 for a very long time until I saw a recent film that went into my top 10, obviously. It actually hurt me to have it be bumped down to number 11, but It's still number 11. This movie is so well directed. Fede Alvarez is the director to watch on the come up. I will do whatever. I will watch whatever he makes from now on, assuming he doesn't do like 4 stingers in a row or something, because he's so talented. And this was just like 10 Cloverfield Lane, in my opinion, where it's like this small thriller. I know a lot of people really loved Green Room. I saw it. I thought it was good, but it wasn't good enough to be in like a movie that I loved or anything. For me, I love Don't Breathe, I love 10 Cloverfield Lane. I think those were 2 better examples of the like small house. You have a small location thriller movie, and especially with Don't Breathe, because there's also a gimmick attached where the man was blind, which there's that great scene we see in the trailer as well, where the lights get turned off and everything's shot in like night vision. That scene was so tense. The story takes turns I wasn't expecting. My only complaint, I guess, is maybe the last like 2 minutes. I was like, that seems a little tacked on for a sequel, and they're making a sequel now, and I'm like, that's unfortunate. But apparently Sam Raimi and Fede Alvarez are both like the take for the sequel is like one of the best sequel takes Sam Raimi had ever heard, so I'm excited about that. But as a single movie, I feel like if it had ended like 2 minutes shorter, it would have been a lot more effective. But even then, just great time at the movies. Fede Alvarez, you wonderful job. Don't Breathe. I had no expectation for this movie, and it ended up being one of my favorite horror films of the entire year. Not my favorite, teasing, but it's up there.